purpose of this video is to show you how to create models that you can launch into a Gazebo simulation, and importantly for those models to include textures. So for this example here, we've got a maze for a robot to drive around, and what we've got is some QR codes sort of dotted around this maze that tell the robot to turn right or left or stop and so on and so forth. Now what I'm going to do here is show you my workflow, which is actually to use two different CAD programs, which sounds a bit sort of overly complex, but there is some method to the madness. The two programs I use to do this is OnShape for the actual creation of the 3D model, and then Blender to add the textures. Why do I do this? OnShape is my preferred CAD program for robotics because a few reasons. One, there's sort of various ways you can get a free account. I've got a student subscription. Two, the OnShape program is browser based, it's pretty easy to use. I find it really quick to just knock 3D models together and export them into STL files on OnShape. Three, and probably the main reason I use OnShape, is the OnShape to robot feature. And what that basically allows you to do is design a robot on CAD, export it into a URDF file, which you can drop straight into your ROS package, and you can then make some tweaks to make it Zacro and put Gazebo plugins. Now I'm not going to go into any of that on this video because it's a complete topic in itself. I'll show my entire workflow there on a separate video in due course. What this video is going to focus on is the creation of a model to drop into Gazebo that has the textures attached. The one downside of OnShape is you cannot pull off models with the textures, so that's why I have to use these two programs. So let's kill this Gazebo simulation quickly, and before we start looking at making any models, I just want to show you what we're going to be using to kind of demonstrate this, if you like. So what I've got here is just a really simple robot description package. Now if you want to start with this package, you can, if you come to my GitHub, which is benmay100, you'll see CamLiDAR bot description, and you can just clone it straight into your IDE and work from there. Now what this is doing very simply is we've got an assets folder which has got the CAD files in for the actual robot itself. We've got a launch folder where we can launch into just RViz on its own, launch into an empty Gazebo world, and to launch into a custom Gazebo world. Now at the moment we haven't got a custom world here, and that's what we're going to do as part of this this video. We've then got a models folder, which at the moment just has 3 images in it, which are QR codes. Now, where did I get these from? If I come here, I just use qrcodegenerator.com. It's free. I just used it with text, just left, right, stop, and downloaded them. I think there's loads of different versions of this you can use online. This is just the first one I found. So I've got a models folder with those 3 images in. I've then got an RViz folder with some RViz config files, again beyond the scope of this video, but I'll do another one explaining all of that. Then got the URDF folder, that's got the Zacro files for the actual robot itself and the various modules and Gazebo plugins. Then got a worlds folder, custom worlds, which is currently empty. We'll be putting something in there, and then a YAML file with a Gazebo bridge. That's just because for this package, once the robot's launched into Gazebo, you can run a teleop-twist keyboard node and control it with the keyboard. Again, not something that this video is about, and I'll do a separate one explaining that. Now the only thing I do need to do is, because I've added this models folder in, is I'm just going to come to my CMake lists. So when you pull this off GitHub, you won't have this models folder, so I've added this in. So what I do need to remember to do as well is just come to the CMake list folder and just add models in, just so when we do a Colcom build a bit later on, it's gonna push that folder in to the install folder as well. Okay, so let's jump over to OnShape. So again, no affiliation whatsoever with these guys, I just like the platform. So I'm going to create a new document. I'm just going to call it QR code maze. Now whilst that's loading up, I'm going to just go to my downloads folder and just delete some of the trial runs I did so we don't get any conflict when I'm downloading things. Now again, this isn't a tutorial or a video about how to use OnShape. There's loads of videos online explaining how it works, so I'm going to go relatively quickly through this. So I'm going to start with a sketch, and I'm going to just keep things really nice and simple and just draw a basic maze. We'll just do a really basic one. So we'll do a right turn, and we will do a left turn. Try and make it roughly correct. I'll just dimension this quickly. So we have realistic dimensions. I'm just doing 1 meter width. Okay, and then I'll just create a offset, and this will be the walls. That will go, that sort of size looks about right. And then let's just, we obviously need, the robot needs to be able to get into the maze, so I'll just draw a line across there and a line across there, and then we'll trim these bits out. Okay, sorry, this line didn't go on. Let's try that again. Excuse me. Let's try not to delete things as we go. Right, that looks better. Trim that out as well. Okay, that's looking good. Right, so I can finish that sketch. I will extrude it, and we'll just go, let's go 1 meter high for the walls, keep things nice and simple. So we've got our sort of basic maze. Now what I want to do is make some sort of really clearly defined faces that we're going to stick the QR boards to. You'll see when we come across the Blender why that's important. So again, I'll just sketch here, and we'll just draw a box there. Let's dimension it. I know it's going to be a meter tall because the walls are a meter tall, so just dimension the width. And we'll do one here as well. Trying to go quickly because I don't want to spend forever on OnShape. That's not what this is about. So let's extrude these two, and that's gonna, is it gonna let me do, no, okay, we'll just extrude them separately. So 0.25, let's just go a little bit bigger just so it's a bit more obvious, and then we'll do this one as well. 0.05, yeah, okay. And I'm going to stick a QR code there as well, but I don't need to extrude anything there because we've got a nice clear face there to stick that to. So again, I would, if I was doing this, I would, you know, for real, I would do things a little bit more, in a bit more of a complex manner. You know, I'd have the maze, I'd have the boards separately and stuff, but for the purpose of this, it's just about showing you the workflow. So I'm keeping things nice and simple here. So we've got our model. Now what I'm going to do before I put this into an assembly is I'm going to assign a material to it. The reason I'm going to do that is because I want it to have some physical properties for the purposes of Gazebo, like having some weight, for example. So I'm just going to make it steel, doesn't really matter. Now if I come across to the assembly, I'm going to rename this assembly tab QR code maze, just because it means when I export things they're going to have, the naming is going to be correct. And then I'm going to insert the maze that we just made, just pop it anywhere. I will then fix it. Usually if I'm doing sort of a multi-part assembly, I'll always kind of fix the main part. Whether we need to do it for this, I don't necessarily think is an issue. But it sort of keeps it in place, so that's fine. Okay, so we've got our maze in the assembly tab on OnShape. So my next thing I'm going to do is where I've got the assembly up here, I'm just going to right click that and I'm going to click export. And by default OnShape will export to an STL. I'm going to change that format to OBJ. And then the other difference is I'm going to tick this export models oriented y-axis up. Why? Because Blender uses a different axis setup, so if you don't, it'll kind of drop the model into Blender kind of facing the wrong way round. You can sort it in Blender, but it's just a little bit easier to sort it at this stage. So let's export that. Now I can see we're going to probably have a bit of an issue in Blender because if you can see here, it's sitting below the origin. We'll see if we can fix that in Blender, but if not, it's a really easy fix when we drop it into Gazebo, so it doesn't matter too much at all. Right, so if I come to my downloads, I've got the QR code maze zip file. I'm just going to extract that. Next step, I'm going to open Blender, bring it over here. Now, disclaimer, I hardly ever use Blender, don't really know how to use it, so it's going to be a little bit clunky, but I'm just going to show you how I use it for this purpose. So I open a new file in Blender, it drops this cube in by default. I'm going to right click and delete that cube. I'm then going to go File, Import, and I'm going to import an OBJ file. If I come to my downloads, there's my QR code maze folder, and there's the OBJ file. And you can see it drops it in oriented correctly, but as expected, it's kind of below the origin. I'm sure I could move it, but as I say, I'm so rubbish with Blender. Let's see if we can at least, now you see already it's causing problems even trying to do that. Let's see if we can move it up. Is that better? That's above the origin now. There we go. Okay, not a problem. Okay, right, so next thing we want to do now, this is what this is all about really, is we want to add the QR codes onto these panels. And we want this to be done in such a way that when we drop this into Gazebo, they're showing. So the first thing I'm going to do up here is on my viewport, is I'm going to select viewport shading material preview. And that's because if we don't, even when we put our QR codes on, they're not going to show. So that's my first thing. Next, now at the moment I'm in object mode by default. So what I'm going to do is click on that face whilst in object mode. And then I'm going to come up to here and click edit mode. And then along here you can see that I can select vertexes, edges or faces. So I'm going to click face, and you'll see our face is actually made of two triangles. So I need to hold down shift to select both of them. Don't know if that, there we go, that's them both selected. Now they're both selected, I'm going to bring up this section here, and it's currently on the timeline. I'm going to come up here to the left, and I'm going to change to shader editor. Zoom in a bit here so we can see what's going on. I'll give us a bit more space. I'm now going to come over to this right hand panel, and I'm going to select this red ball here, which is material properties. And then up here you can see we've got the material for the actual solid shape, but I'm going to add a material slot here, and then down here I'm going to click new, and you can see it's just material.001. I'll call this QR right, and then I'm going to hit assign, and that's going to assign that material to those two faces, but ultimately what is the one face. But you'll see we haven't got any QR code showing yet. So let's click over here now, just click into this black space here, hold down Shift and A, and you're going to get a mini menu. I'm going to go to texture, image texture, and drop this node in. I'm then going to connect color to base color, and you'll see we're getting some changes going on here now. My next step is I'm going to come here and click open. I'm going to go to our ROS package, maze robot, camLiDAR description, and you'll remember in our models folder we've got our QR code, so I'm going to put the right QR code image on there. Something happened, but we still can't see that QR code, and that's because the final step here is we're going to come up here and go to UV editor. I'm going to right click on these selected faces and go UV unwrap, angle based, and like that we can see our QR code has dropped on. Now the only thing you'll notice is the QR code is oriented differently here to what the actual image is. That's an easy fix. Whilst I'm hovered over here, I'm going to hold down R, and you'll see that I can now rotate. If I keep rotating around, I can get the QR code to orient on the model in the right way. So let's just click that to fix it there. Okay, so that's one done. So I'll show you again for the others. So what I'm going to do is go back to object mode here. Let's move our model around so we can see things correctly. Select that face, go to edit mode. I've got faces selected, hold down shift, and we'll select our two faces. Then again I'm going to come to shader editor, and you can see we've got a new sort of blank slate here, and we're going to repeat the process. So I'm going to add a material slot, put new in, rename this QR left, assign it, come to this section here, and we're going to do Shift A, texture, image texture, drop that on, connect color to base color, open, go to our workspace, find our models folder, and this is going to be the left image, and then again come up here, UV editor, right click, UV unwrap, angle based, and again we can see it's not oriented the right way round, so we'll just do that until we get that looking correct. Final one, so go back to object mode again. That's the face we're going to want to use. We're going to change to edit mode, select both those faces, go to shader editor, add a material slot, add a new material, and we'll call this one QR stop, assign it, come over here, click on the black space, Shift A, texture, image texture, connect color to base color, open, again we'll go to our, keep going into the wrong one, sorry, go into our workspace, models, and then we want our stop image, and then we're going to go UV editor, right click on those, unwrap the faces, and then I'm just going to do R to rotate this around again so it looks how we expect it. Okay, so I'll go back to object mode. Let's just move this, see if we can move this out of the way a bit. Maybe I'll just go back to timeline so it lets me kind of tuck it out of the way. Doesn't look like it's going to anyway. But that's looking better now. That's what we're wanting to achieve. So final step here on Blender is up here. I'm going to select, you'll see when I imported this maze, it's imported it as loads of different meshes. Don't worry too much about that. What we just need to do is make sure we do select them all. So you can see I've got them all selected. I'm now going to go File, Export, and what I'm going to do is not export as an OBJ, I'm actually going to export as a .dae file, collada file. Critical step now is we need to make sure we tick this box, selection only, and that's going to make sure it's just exporting the bits we need. I'm going to save it directly into my workspace, and I'm going to put it, again this is really important, I'm going to put it in the models folder where those QR code images are, and in terms of a name we'll call it QR code maze.dae. Hit export. Let's get Blender out the way, and let's just check our VS Code, and in models you'll see that we've got our images, which we had there anyway, but we've got our DAE file as well now. Really important, why do we put them in the same folder as the images? Well, if I come here to this section here, library images, what you'll see is it's got the image names here, and the file paths by default are assuming that the images are in the same directory. For more complex models, it's quite common that you would have the you know, a subdirectory with materials and textures and things like that. That's fine, you just need to be aware that you need to get your file path sorted for the textures to show up. Here we're keeping things nice and simple, so I've just got everything in the same folder. Okay, so we've got our model in our ROS package. So the next step for me now is I'm going to just do a colcon build. We're not quite done yet, but I'm going to do a colcon build. Let's make sure we're in the right directory. That built okay, which is a good sign. Let's just resource the bash rc, and let's launch our robot again. And we're going to launch into an empty world on Gazebo again. Move that out of the way, get Gazebo a bit bigger. Here's our lonely robot in the empty world. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to come to the entity tree and add an entity, and I'm going to add a mesh. I'm going to go back to our workspace, and I'm going to go into models, and I'm going to select this DAE file, and you'll see we have our maze. And the best thing to do here is drop it in such a place that it's kind of where the robot's going to drop. That's the easiest thing. If you drop it in the wrong place, obviously you can just move it around and get it in the right place like that. That's in place. So what I want to do now is I'm actually going to delete my robot, or remove it completely. And this now is a custom world. So if I now come up here and go save world as, again I'm going to come to my workspace, and rather than the models folder, I'm now going to go to the worlds folder, and I'm going to call this QR code maze world.sdf. Hit save. Okay, we can kill that gazebo simulation. You can see we've now got our world showing here, and the final step is I'm going to come to my custom launch file. Now this file itself, you know, there's almost a whole video on this file. I'll do this separately, and the key thing is you can just pull this off my GitHub repository, and it's a nice little sort of template file to use. But up here you'll see we've got custom world file name. Let's delete that and get our file name in here. So we've got QR code maze world.sdf. Save that. We'll do a fresh colcon build, resource the environment, and then moment of truth is we're going to try now and launch into a custom world. And what we should see here is our robot launches into a world with our maze with the QR codes. Taking a little while to load up, but just like that, there we have it. Make it a bit bigger. There we have it. Our robot has launched into our world with our QR code. Now in this example, I've got an RViz set up here with a LiDAR and a camera, and that's how I would then add additional nodes for the robot to drive, read the QR code, turn right. But that's outside the scope of what this video is about. So yeah, that's my workflow for creating custom models that you can drop into Gazebo that have textures on them as well.